welcome to episode number 73 of Gar Borras' Time Machine. Now, Gar, we're doing this today on the Thanksgiving, Sunday before Thanksgiving, I should say. And being that is the case, I thought it would be real fun to do today's episode on a real Thanksgiving classic, Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving. So let's start off episode, Gar, with you telling me, of course, this first came out in 1973. When you saw this for the first time, what are your memories of it?
Well, that was my high school years.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd say at about that time, I was either a sophomore or a junior in high school. I think more like a junior in high school.
Okay.
And, so it really, evokes the memories of the 70s.
Sure.
And, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, when I think of, Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. It has become a Thanksgiving tradition for many people. And in talking about Peanuts and Charlie Brown in general, it's one of those traditions, I would say, that is loved by people of all ages. Like you're saying, well, I was a high school kid then, but I'm from what you can say, you still loved it. I loved it. It's something I still cherish. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed just the other night going back and pulling out my DVD and watching this. It was so much fun. In spite of the fact that I'm a grown man, I still love it just as the first time I saw it.
Well, yeah, it was a time for me, where it was, almost starting. It was starting to become post hippie.
Yeah.
The hippies was a '60s thing, but it carried into the '70s.
Sure.
And the early '70s started, where that started becoming a transition. You know what I mean? It was starting to wane, but also, it was a time, like bell bottoms,
sure,
and muscle cars, and
yeah.
So it was, it really was a unique time when that came out.
Yeah, and again, a Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving first premiered, Gar, on the CBS Network on November 20th, 1973. This holiday classic was a 10th animated TV special based on the Peanuts comic strip, the third Peanuts holiday special following 1965's A Charlie Brown Christmas, and 1966 says it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, which we've done an episode on, which I urge people to go and check out. And see, that's kind of the point I'm making. At this point, they were still creating new new Peanuts specials and holiday specials, and they were talking, okay, we got a Christmas special, we got a Halloween special, now we should have a special for Thanksgiving. And again, all three of these have become holiday traditions, I think, since they were originally released. every year around Halloween time, you start thinking, I can't wait to have them air It's a Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown on TV. It's just one of those things, around this time of year. I often would also see them play like The Wizard of Oz.
Well, yeah, Charlie Brown, was so iconic at that time.
Yeah.
That there's things that happen when things become iconic.
Yeah.
And when Charlie Brown starts becoming part of the Macy's parade.
Yeah.
Those are those kind of signposts about how big Charlie Brown was,
and is,
and how popular his specials were.
Yeah.
The comic strip, kind of started the whole thing, but this is when Charlie Brown was like at the apex of his popularity.
Yeah, and again, we do so often in these episodes, Gar, is we really got to stress the point that people today that even are aware of Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving, a lot of kids today, a lot of people, younger people, may not even be aware of the fact that Charlie Brown and Peanuts started out as a comic strip. I mean, you used to go and get the daily newspaper. Yes, folks, people used to spend 25 cents to get their daily newspaper and have their coffee in the morning with breakfast. And you tune into the comic section, in the paper. And it started out as a comic strip in the paper. And then by this point, when they start making the Charlie Brown specials and the cartoons and the movies, that's the thing is it's going from being a newspaper comic strip to kind of bringing these characters to life. And the thing that I think Charles Schulz, the creator, took great pride in is the fact that if you go back and you look at the classic comic strip that was in the newspaper to these TV specials, the characters look the same in the comic strip as they do in these movies and TV specials, and that's not always an easy thing to do. I think they were really great at making that transition.
Yeah, and there's things about the Charlie Brown special that a lot of the public really doesn't know about. When I was kind of looking into this, when they did the Charlie Brown Christmas special, I don't think that the networks were like all that behind it.
Yeah.
And they were looking at it like, nice try, son, kind of thing. And then when it wound up airing and it wound up being so popular, see, it goes back to, a theme that, goes through all of our episodes, is the executives thinking they know
so much
what's best.
Yeah.
Well, this was one of those cases where the executives were saying, well, nice try, son. And then when it airs, it was so popular, they're like scrambling, to do another one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it was kind of a rocky start.
Sure.
And the public really kind of doesn't know about these things. It was, it wasn't, a smooth, easy, thing. You know what I mean? The networks really weren't behind it.
Yeah, and to kind of put that thought, shovel it home. This is what I read. It said it should be noted that in 1974, so this is a year later than it after it premiered, Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving won a TV Emmy Award. It's now the first Peanuts holiday special that featured an all-original script that did not rely on the comic strip. So this is the Thanksgiving special is the first one of these specials where Charles Schulz did not kind of say, okay, we're just going to base everything on the old comic strip. They actually sat down and wrote a script for this.
Well, by then, they were, getting behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Supporting it, giving it the right finances and stuff like that. They had to earn it.
Yeah, and to really hammer this.
That's kind of what you're explaining. They wound up earning being able to have those perks.
And really to hammer this idea home, Gar, what we're talking about here, about how popular this TV special became. It said when Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving first premiered on November 20th, 1973, get this, it rated number 3 in the Nielsen's rating behind All in the Family and Sanford's Son that week. So again, this is kind of a TV landscape in 1973 of what was on TV. And this TV special, out of everything that aired for that week, it was at number 3.
Well, for me, it's kind of, I look back now, and I look back with such warm memories.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? It's just, it evokes, that warmth of Thanksgiving, being at home, with, the family and the family dinner and all that. Back in those days, the fireplace was going strong. so gathering around the fireplace and cozying up, and all of these things that are warmth and kind of security blankets for us all. It really all goes it all goes back to that time period where it all kind of started. Does that make sense?
Oh, sure. And you know why that is, Gar? It's because for all of us, it was part of our childhood. What I mean, okay, now Charlie Brown Thanksgiving came out in 1973. You're becoming a young man. You particular, I'm talking about, and you were like a junior in high school. You said, but going back to the first two holiday specials, you had the Charlie Brown Christmas, and you had the Great Pumpkin Charlie. But that went back to like 10 years before, in the 1960s, when the world was very much in that mindset of love, peace, flower power, the hippie movement, as you say. So Charlie Brown and Peanuts, at least with you too, goes all the way back to the 60s. So 10 years later, when this is released, you're like, yeah, you grew up with this,
Yes, yeah, and it's all you look back now, and it's all really good memories.
And let me ask you, Gar, when you think about anything to do with Charlie Brown and Peanuts, what's one of the common threads or common themes that run through probably pretty much every cartoon or special of Charlie Brown and Peanuts? What's something that almost anything you're going to watch, you're guaranteed to see?
It was always Lucy.
Yeah, Lucy. Okay, the reason I bring that up, I don't know if you noticed, but in the Thanksgiving special, Lucy only appears in the little opening scene where her and Charlie Brown are doing their, what's expected of them playing the football, and he's like, no, I'm not going to kick the football because I know the minute I go to kick it, you're going to throw it. Oh, not at all, Charlie Brown. Why would I do this? Why would I do that when today is a holiday? I would not do that to you on a holiday. And once again, she gets him. But and then what's interesting is I did not notice. I read this and doing the research for this, and then when I'm watching the show, I kind of picked up on this. I don't know if you noticed the fact, but they had the one scene at the beginning with Lucy, and then Lucy does not appear in the rest of the film.
Well, yeah, it's almost like she was kind of phased out, very insignificant. But then again, when you think about it, that scene became iconic.
That's my point.
That is the number one scene that is always remembered about Lucy and Charlie Brown.
And that's the one scene they always have to include in almost everything they do. That's become a fan favorite. It's kind of like, could you imagine if they ever made a Peanuts cartoon where that does not take place?
It's iconic in itself. Just that one scene.
Yeah, and what else is iconic with Lucy in these different cartoons is she'd also would have the booth where she'd be giving advice to all the other kids for 5 cents or 25 cents or something like that.
The last person you take advice from.
Yeah. Yeah. So and also this is another interesting fact. It said in the movie where Peppermint Patty informs the gang that they are invited to Charlie Brown's grandmother's house for Thanksgiving, it's a rare time where she refers to him as Charlie Brown and not Chuck.
Yeah, there are some firsts.
Yeah.
For the Thanksgiving. And that's one of them.
Yeah.
His Chuck thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of neat that you brought that up because that's just kind of one of those like little firsts.
Yeah.
That happened during the Thanksgiving.
And another, of course, this is what we got really get to because kind of it says the plot, of course, behind Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving special is the fact that Peppermint Patty invites herself and 2 friends to spend Thanksgiving with Charlie Brown at Charlie Brown's house. But then there's the fact that Charlie Brown is not a good cook, and because of that, he chooses to serve up popcorn, jelly beans, toast, pretzel, instead of a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, which upsets Charlie Brown uninvited guests. Now again, let's talk about this for a minute because Peppermint Patty, and I guess the whole kind of moral behind this special is she really has very poor etiquette. She doesn't get the fact that it's kind of wrong maybe to invite yourself and your friends. And that's kind of a whole purpose behind this. And Charlie Brown has other plans. They're supposed to be going to his grandmother's house, but he's kind of shy and he doesn't know how to explain, and he's nervous, and so he just ends up letting his friends kind of come over, and he doesn't know what to do. And let's talk about the fact that they have an untraditional meal.
But for through the eyes of a child, it's perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Through the eyes of an adult, that meal, it's just so wrong. But through the eye, look at it through the eyes of a child.
Sure, and there's a couple other things too with that, Gar. First of all, I think another thing that this Thanksgiving special really kind of hones in on is the fact that, first of all, if you invite yourself and two friends over, and you're lucky enough not to be, told, hey, there's a door. I mean, you should be thankful that you got somewhere to go. Thankful you got a meal. There's some people, let's be honest, in the world, a lot of people that don't have anywhere to go this Thanksgiving, that might just be eating out of a trash can. Let's be honest there. And so it teaches also a little bit about not just proper etiquette, but about being thankful, being grateful for, however little you may or may not have.
Well, it's we celebrate it once a year.
Yeah.
But, in reality, it should be how we look at everything.
Yeah.
All year long. And, and that's just, just one of those indications of that.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing is, and then Peppermint Patty had a real fit during the film, and she's like, what is this? Where's the turkey? Where's the gravy? Where's the Thanksgiving meal? And then another one, little girl's Marcy, kind of says, well, sir, first of all, you kind of invited us here. And so you should be grateful for the fact alone that he served us a meal. And then Peppermint Patty feels bad, and she realizes what she did was wrong. But she tells her friend, hey, could you go tell Charlie Brown I'm sorry, instead of her doing it,
Well, human characteristics.
Yeah.
This is back in 73.
Yeah.
And I know plenty of people that are like that today.
Sure.
And there were probably people plenty like that, hundreds of years before then either.
Yeah.
So it's a human characteristic.
Yeah, and Gar, let's talk about Charlie Brown for a minute. I mean, I've read often that Charles Schulz based Charlie Brown much on his own life. I guess that's why Charlie Brown is named after Charles Schulz. That's what they say. It's based a lot on his life. But Charlie Brown has always been described kind of as an underdog, very shy, the world's most depressed kid. So right away, everybody is like on Charlie Brown's side. You want to root for the guy, I mean, at the beginning of the special, one of the things he says is, oh my God, Linus, another holiday is upon us. What are we going to do? I'm so depressed.
The Linus, Peppermint Patty, all of those characters, Charlie Brown, they all kind of represent like different people. Peppermint Patty, the girl that's rough around the edges,
kind of almost a tomboy,
Yeah, the tomboy, the girl that's rough around the edges. Yeah. And Linus, the dirty kid.
Yeah.
Because when you were kids, there was that kid that was the dirty kid.
Well, actually, Linus was the one with the blanket. Lucy's younger brother.
That's right. That
Pigpen you're talking about.
Yeah.
But they look similar, so I could see you getting them. But even that was a kind of joke about Linus, his security blanket. You mentioned that, but people in real life do that, kind of thing. And it's like, hey, how old are you going to be? You're going to be a teenager and still, be sucking your thumb and carrying your little blankie around.
Well, but that's that. That they kind of represent
People.
different, different type personality characteristics, and that's one of those things that makes the Charlie Brown special what made people gravitate, because people could identify with the different characters. You know what I mean? A person that was more like Charlie Brown would identify with Charlie Brown, but another person that was more like Linus, would identify with a Linus. You know what I mean? So it was kind of. I would doubt very much that any of this was preconceived.
Yeah.
That people would do that. People would gravitate towards different characters because they identify to them. But it just kind of fell into place and just worked. You know what I mean? And people just wound up. It wound up taking that course organically.
Yeah, and
know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, you couldn't help but root for the world's most oppressed kid, Charlie Brown. I mean, in all these episodes, you even look at the Christmas special. The joke was that Charlie Brown would always pick out the most ugly Christmas tree, and people would laugh at his choice of the Christmas tree. But then by the end of the special, everybody's with Charlie Brown. They're celebrating Christmas. Everybody's having a great time.
Yes, and to me that kind of signifies Charlie Brown, penchant for the underdog, even the underdog being the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it just that's kind of the way I took it.
Sure.
When I was a kid, that's the way that I mentally digested it. Is that he had that personality characteristic, about because it was more of his affinity for the underdog.
And what's funny is all these characters, if you look at all the Peanuts gang characters, they a lot of them don't really have a clue, their own little world. Like Lucy comes across as very pushy, mean-spirited, bossy, opinionated,
which is a personality characteristic.
But yet, all these other people hang out with her. They all think like Charlie Brown is a loser, a nerd, but yet they all want to hang out with him. You know what I mean? They all eventually come together. I mean, maybe it's kind of that's a neighborhood. Who knows? But my point is too. Like, you ever notice in all these Charlie Brown cartoons, like you don't really ever get to see his parents. You just hear like you would hear. Wah, 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 wah,
Well, and it's so funny because as an adult, I get in situations where I think of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's situations that remind me of that. The parent where, they're there and you can kind of tell what they're thinking. The meaning of what they're saying is by the tone of their voice, but you're really not paying attention to the words.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about the Peanuts cartoon are, like I said, they started out as a comic strip, but they stayed pretty true to what the characters looked like in the newspaper comic strip. So by the time they made the first one of these Peanuts specials, there's no doubt, oh, that's Charlie Brown, that's Linus, that's Lucy. They look the same as they did in the comic strip. And then I think for many people, could you imagine if you were there and you see the very first one of these holiday specials they made, and then you start, okay, not only do you know what Charlie Brown looks like, but he's got a voice now.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because Charlie Brown and Peanuts, they're not even as advanced as The Simpsons, like when it comes to animated characters, but yet I think that's what many people loved about it. It was so real life and simplistic.
Very simplistic, and because it had crossover themes, it was one of those kind of I don't know if I can't really put a stamp on it saying it's the first,
Sure.
but it's early on in coming out with cartoons that appeal to the parents as well as to the children.
Yeah, and another interesting note is one of the main characters was not featured in the Thanksgiving special. Schroeder, the kid who like Lucy is just crazy about, that's always playing the piano, he was not in this either.
Yes, and I love Schroeder.
Yeah. and it's funny how even these all the characters, they have like these little like infatuations with one another. Like, okay, you have Charlie Brown, who you can tell like even in the Thanksgiving special, she's inviting herself over because I think she's more in love with Charlie Brown than he's even aware. He really doesn't have a clue. But even when she's inviting herself over the phone, like in the Thanksgiving special, she's like, come on, Chuck. I got some great news. My dad and mom are going out of town. My dad says, all right, if I come hang out with you at your house, Chuck. And Chuck, I know you really love, I really know you're crazy about me, Chuck. Isn't that right, Chuck? So there's, even in these cartoons, there's some of that going on. And then, like I said, Lucy, whenever you see her and Schroeder, she's like driving him crazy, but she's so infatuated and in love with him, you could tell. And then you have Linus, who Charlie Brown's little sister just, is crazy about. And you have all these little kind of little love triangles going on.
Well, but at that age when
puppy love almost,
we were children, that was all new to us, and it was all, it was. I just remember being a child of that age, and and the introduction to feelings about a girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, or a girl having feelings about me and stuff, and it was all brand new, and it was just so exciting and overwhelming. So it's only natural that they're going to bring that up, and because it is children at that age, and that's part of the package. Yeah. I guess that's the best way to put it. It's part of the package.
Yeah, it's part of that package we love, and we always want to see it. And Gar, it's interesting that you brought up the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade, because you may remember, but we had done an episode a couple years back on the Thanksgiving Macy's Day Parade, and what we learned about that, part of the reason the parade even got started is because that's why, like in the Miracle on 34th Street, I believe it is, they have a little kind of nod to the parade, and that's how the parade kind of first got launched, because they used to be a big deal about Macy's and that was first seen, I believe, in the Miracle on 34th Street. But anyways, it was saying, while the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade is not mentioned at all in Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving, the parade's association with the Peanuts characters was reinforced with this holiday movie, because since 1973, when this film was released, Charlie Brown and the rest of the Peanuts gang have been part of the parade.
Those are those signposts that just tell you how much of an icon Charlie Brown really was.
Yeah, and
all the characters, Charles Schultz and the whole thing. The Charlie Brown whole phenomenon is still popular today.
Sure.
But it's waning. It's taking its natural course. But what we're talking about is Charlie Brown at the apex of popularity.
And part of the reason for
where it was a part of everyday people's lives in 1973. You know what I mean? It was a big part of society at that time, and it was a big part that was really, really embraced by society at that time.
And I didn't even think about this, Gar, until you just said that. But another kind of proof of Charlie Brown's place in pop culture is anybody today can go visit Knott's Berry Farm in Orange County, California. Buena Park to be specific. And if you go through the park, you'll see the Peanuts characters throughout Knott's Berry Farm.
Well, I love Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah.
I have always loved Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah.
Their inventing of the Halloween haunt.
Sure.
Has been stolen by all other amusement parks, but was started by Knott's Berry Farm.
In fact, for years they had an association, Knott's Berry Farm, talking about with Elvira, and she, but the Knott's Scary Farm. You're right. They started that all, and then all the other places, Disneyland, even Universal, I dare say, they got great things they do. But Knott's Berry Farm was the originator of that. You are definitely right. Now, another thing got to mention in talking about Peanuts and Charlie Brown is his lovable dog Snoopy. Snoopy, interestingly enough, sometimes he can talk, sometimes he can't. He can fly. He's a World War II flying ace, and in many of the episodes you'll see him flying that Red Baron plane. But he's very smart. But a lot of the kids, that surround him. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Snoopy as a character, because I dare say that I believe Snoopy may have been one of the first animated dogs, in the sense that I think Snoopy even predates Scooby-Doo.
Well, he does, and his popularity. People don't know this today.
Yeah.
Snoopy was more popular than Charlie Brown.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is the truth. And, we remember, we look back, it was named after Charlie Brown. He's the main character and everything.
Yeah.
But the public back in 1973, if you did a poll on the popularity of each character, mm-hmm. Snoopy would have been the number one most popular character, from of all the Charlie Brown characters.
And I almost dare say that Charlie Brown would be Snoopy's sidekick in a way.
Yeah, but in popularity,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying is, but in popularity, in how the public embraced, Snoopy was like through the roof.
Yeah.
There was all kinds of, references to him and the Red Baron and all of that stuff, and and that whole Red Baron thing was what made Snoopy so iconic, but it was also Snoopy's attitude.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, Snoopy was a dog that kind of had an attitude,
like Joe
not
Cool.
A bad attitude.
Yeah.
But kind of like a little bit more on the mischievous side, which made him more lean more to comedy, which is ultimately what this is supposed to be. But that was his thing. Was Snoopy had kind of this. Where does he get his self-assuredness from? He's a freaking dog.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you think about it, Gar, like most animals kind of are like that, in the sense that, I mean, most dogs, they could take a number two anywhere, where most people don't quite have that attitude. You know what I mean? Animals are very different. They're more secure in their environment now, and Snoopy's a perfect contrast to Charlie Brown, because Charlie Brown, who's the most depressed kid in the world, maybe, who knows, maybe they got Snoopy to so Charlie Brown would have a friend, have a companion, so he's not so depressed. Snoopy's there to kind of help him. Even in the Thanksgiving special, when Charlie Brown screws up the meal and the friends aren't happy with what they're being served, the whole time Snoopy and Woodstock are creating a nice Thanksgiving dinner for everybody, and kind of saves the day for Charlie Brown.
I think that Snoopy was so popular back in those days that he was even being used in commercials.
Yeah.
Snoopy was all over the place, and that's kind of a forgotten
thing,
aspect of this whole Charlie Brown phenomenon. But Snoopy was like, I mean, If he was an athlete, he could have made obscene amounts of money making endorsements.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
that kind of popular.
Yeah, and think about it, Gar. I mean, even looking at some of the characters, like Charlie Brown himself. When you think of Charlie Brown, like, how would you describe? What are some things that immediately come to mind?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Charlie Brown, like when you think of the character of Charlie Brown, um, what are some things that are iconic that you immediately come to mind? Like, how would you describe him?
Good grief.
Okay, that's a good one. How about also just kind of his physical description? You never see him. He's always got the same outfit on, same yellow shirt with the wacky black design. But could you imagine we ever saw Charlie Brown in anything else other than that? But yet, again, it's animation, it's cartoon. We don't question it, but you never see him in anything but that.
Well, it's kind of speculative, but
Yeah.
I just kind of have a feeling that the public would have been shocked
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
he had changed anything of his attire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because it stayed that way, throughout, we all kind of take it for granted. It's something that you really don't pay that much attention to, except for one person, Jason Houston.
Yeah. But
You noticed it.
Yeah, but it's like you said, it's something we've come to accept, and it's interesting because you said that I think we said is Peanuts is starting to kind of fade, and that's happening for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think since the death of Charles Schulz, they really haven't done a lot of with the Peanuts now. Like I said, before Charles Schulz died, they were having Peanuts at Knott's Berry Farm, so that's something they've been doing for several years now. But since the death of Charles Schulz, I don't know that they've really made any new episodes. What they've done, the last thing I think they had the Peanuts movie, like maybe 5-6 years ago, that came out in movie theaters, but that was a little different of a take. It's becoming more of a where you're seeing, even when you go in the stores, DVD collections are going on Amazon. I've seen a lot of his stuff. You could go on YouTube and check out the old Charlie Brown cartoons, and people are discovering it that way. But that's part of the reason is it's starting to fade away because not making any new ones. Yet we still tune into the classic holiday specials every year.
Well, and to be honest with you, I think this is just my opinion.
Sure.
And that's all it is, just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this, it should be left to take its natural course.
Sure.
And here's the reason why, is because if they did try to continue with new versions of Charlie Brown, it's kind of something that it would be out of context by now, simply because the younger kids, what they're used to and what they gravitate towards is the new modern day cartoons, and that's theirs. That's what they embrace. It's theirs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I would doubt very much that the younger audiences would embrace a Charlie Brown. It really should remain the possession of the age group of ours, because we grew up in that era, and we have the outlook of people from that time period, that's ours. You know what I mean? And so it just, I don't think that Charlie Brown is something that would work with the younger audiences today. There's just too much of a gap of the difference.
Yeah, and another thing you got to consider when talking about animated characters is I can't think of a single time when I watched like an animated cartoon that I followed over the years. Anything from Scooby Doo to Charlie Brown. That is really that you've seen a progression. What I'm talking about is like it might be interesting to see like them do a modern day Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown's all grown up and he's 6 foot tall, but I don't know that I'd want to see that, Gar, because that's not our Charlie Brown, as you're saying, that we grew up with. And if you think about it, watching any kind of these classic cartoons, we never really seen an age progression. I mean, like even the Scooby Doo gang. We never got the senior version of a mystery gang, with a gray-haired Freddy, and a gray-haired Daphne. If you notice, they all always kind of stay the same age, but that's kind of the whole point of animation. You're living in a fake world.
Forever teen.
Yeah.
But that's that thing. It's ours. Charlie Brown is ours, and it's special to us.
Sure it is.
You know what I mean? It's part of us. It's a part of our fabric. But it's not a part of this next generations. The next generations are in the process of developing their own fabric.
Sure.
50 years into their future, they will be looking back at their times,
and people are
with the same. Well, I'm hoping with everything in my heart that's what happens. But that they're able to live a life that they're able to enjoy, where they can look back. 50 years at their young years and look at the stuff that we look at now, and it's too space age, it's too modern. You know what I mean? We prefer the more older style of the Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
And the stuff that came from that time period. It's ours. It's our comfort zone. It's part of our fabric.
Yeah, and what's funny too is a lot of this stuff from our era when we grew up, Gar, is finding a home like on YouTube, and a lot of people are discovering this stuff that we've done episodes on. Like I remember getting the idea to do an episode on the Gong Show, which we did a great episode on. I had forgot about that show, but just going on YouTube one day, stuff is popping up, and I seen like an old episode of the Gong Show. That's how we got the idea to do that. And I could not believe how many episodes I was able to find of that. This is a show from the 1970s, pop up on YouTube. Same thing with Ed Sullivan. I was able to find so many episodes, and it's amazing. That's a great thing about YouTube. Not only do people discover these classic shows that way, but it's kind of a time, really a great time machine, if you will, because it's really like going back in time and discovering this stuff. I mean, even when we did the episode on the Gong Show, in the research, we discovered that the reason the show was taken off the air was because of this episode, what they refer to as the popsicle incident, where two young girls were kind of sexually dressed in a real sexual way. It was that episode that got the show taken off air. So I go on YouTube, kind of wanting to see if I can find the episode. I put in the popsicle incident, and we even posted it. But it was amazing what we saw, But the point that I was able to go and find that, it is amazing, a great, amazing tool.
Now, I have never seen that.
I'll have to send it to you.
I'm well aware of it,
yeah.
just like you.
Yeah.
But I have never seen it.
I'll have to send that to you later.
I am willing to bet right now, sight unseen, that scene that got the Gong Show taken off air probably is tame by today's standards, and we wouldn't even take a second look at it.
Yet at the same time, I'll have to send it to you later, but the clip. But at the same time, I can tell you when I saw it, I could not believe what I was seeing. But yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, by the standards of the time when that came out, it was shocking.
Yeah, it was.
You know what I mean? It was inappropriate for American television.
Sure.
That was the view, and that's the reason why it was taken off.
Yeah.
But you fast forward to now, and people would look at it and go, "What's the big deal?"
Yeah. And Gar, a big part of these specials too, I don't know if you're aware, was the music. And to be completely honest, when I was watching the episode, I was more focused on what was going on, but the music is a big part of it. And to that end, this is something that I found very interesting. It said in 2023, the original source tapes for the soundtrack recording were located, and the soundtrack finally received an official release for the first time ever. So, people were able to watch the episode, but never before had the soundtrack been available until they found the original source tapes just a couple years ago. And I remember seeing it like even recently when I went to Target. They have a huge vinyl section now in the store. But just think about that's the first time that was made available to the public just a couple of years back.
Well, a lot of people don't know this about me because they just look at me as the singer for a Guns N' Roses tribute band, and immediately think of me as that wild rocker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All the stereotype connotations that go up in your mind.
Yeah.
But just to kind of give people a little bit more of an idea about depth, the music soundtrack for all of Charlie Brown specials and all of that,
yes,
is one of my favorite music. It dominates what I listen to when I'm in the car.
Wow.
If I'm by myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm by myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's old school jazz.
Vince Girardi, yeah.
And old school jazz goes back to my early musicianship history.
Wow.
Because when I was a young musician, learning the ropes, I just like all people that are young and full of vinegar, I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
And my peers were telling me at that time that if you really are serious about what you're saying, then you need to dive into jazz because that's where the best musicians are. And I just learned. I knew nothing about that before I was told that, and when I dove into it and I started exposing myself to it, I quickly realized these guys were musician gymnastics of the Olympic level. You know what I mean? Not just of the Olympic level. And the mind-blowing abilities of these musicians to be able to do what they do on their instruments was intimidating.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, literally intimidating. Now, not all jazz music is intimidating like that.
Yeah.
There is some that's really nice and warm and very, really nice stuff. But when you really get into the heavyweights, the premier jazz musicians, they're so highly regarded because they were able to do things musically that other people can't even conceive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really opened my eyes to the level of musicianship and how far that can go. And I really dove into it at that time of my life, and it made me so much more powerful of a musician. Especially at that time, I was able to do things that a lot of other musicians were not able to do. But if you want to make money, you gotta play rock.
Now let me ask you, Gar.
You're not going to make money playing jazz, and I make my money playing rock. But what I really like listening to is the same type of music that they use for the Charlie Brown specials.
Now let me ask you, Gar, as a guy that started out as a bass player originally, is there for a bass player, would that be like a great type of music to play?
Oh, okay. Stanley Clarke put me in my place.
Okay.
All you have to do is listen to Stanley Clarke's early works on bass, from his first 2 solo albums.
Uh-huh.
And that bass playing is so intimidating. If I was able to learn bits and pieces, I felt that it was a major accomplishment.
Wow, maybe there's a future episode in Stanley Clarke in that. But I will tell you, Gar, for anybody listening to this, Charlie Brown, the late and great Rolling Stones drummer, believe it or not, even though he played in a rock band, he was primarily a jazz drummer.
Well, I just, I have a huge appreciation for jazz music.
Uh-huh.
When, K-Jazz is my favorite station,
wow.
LA radio station. It's not the only station that I listen to, but it's really relaxing to listen to, because jazz encompasses many areas, and because jazz, a lot of jazz, not all jazz, but a lot of jazz, especially in its early years, was music without singing. And so music, when you're listening to music without singing, music was relying more on evoking emotions through musical notes.
Yeah.
And making you feel certain ways by listening to the music and like that, evoking emotions just through sound.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what I'm getting to when you listen to, say, like a K-Jazz, and you're listening to some of these pieces that's basically all music. It can be very relaxing.
Yeah.
To listen to, and just kind of let the stress kind of melt away.
Yeah, and to further kind of drive that home, again, interesting enough, the guy behind the music and all these Charlie Brown specials was a guy by the name of Vince Girardi. He was indeed a jazz musician. Now, knowing that, Gar, I was curious, in listening to the music that you'd hear in all the Charlie Brown cartoons, just kind of by a musician's ear, can you tell it's the same guy behind the music, and that they don't have?
I don't know if it's Giraldi. Or,
I don't know how to pronounce it. If I'm pronouncing it right.
I don't know how to pronounce it, and I don't want to disrespect the man, because the man is a great man.
Yeah, there you go.
With huge accomplishments.
Yeah.
But he also had a wonderful voice, because in this episode, it was his another one of those firsts. It was the first time of any Charlie Brown special that an adult's voice was used in the special. Okay. All other specials only had children's voices. Yeah. Or adults mimicking children.
Oh, okay. Wow, that is a first. Now, before you wrap up today's episode, which I really enjoyed doing with you, Gar, you let us into the life of Gar Borras, as we like to do every chance we get. Talk a little bit more about your life as a musician, because I know, as we've mentioned here, you started out as a bass player. I was curious, when you go from playing bass, because a lot of people tell me, okay, when you play an instrument, that's kind of your security blanket, if you will. When you go from having an instrument that you hold on stage to being the front man, where you're not playing a guitar or a bass, how long did it take for you to kind of get used to that?
Well, I was a little bit of a different bass player cat.
Okay.
In that my outlook on my stage persona, I'll use, what other bass players' stage persona was at the time, because, when I was developing all of this, it was back in the 70s.
Okay.
But the bass persona was always the bass player was always that guy in the back.
Yeah.
That you never paid attention to. You know what I mean? That you really were never even aware that he was there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was the outlook of the bass player at the time. And so as a young musician, you're thinking, what can I do with my career that is groundbreaking, that is stands on its own, that's not just another
instrument,
one of these or another one of those. It's, hey, here's this new one. You see what I'm saying? What is it that I can do to take the bass player position and kind of give it a different twist that stands on my own. And so what I did is I started looking at the other two positions in a band that do get all the attention, the lead singer and the lead guitarist. And, they're the ones that get the attention. And so what I started looking at is I go, well, I got to start getting in people's faces. I got to start taking bass and start taking the approach like I'm a front man as the bass player. Or I'm the lead guitarist as the bass player, and start having that persona. You know what I mean? And very few bass players were doing that at the time.
Yeah. Because if you think about it,
so that was the first thing. That I did was I re-looked at the actual position of bass on its own, just that on its own. And, and so it made it where when I developed Dupuytren's contracture, which is basically a plantar fasciitis. People are familiar with their feet. Plantar fasciitis. It's basically plantar fasciitis in your hands.
Wow.
And it's not good. It basically made me realize that I was probably going to have to stop playing bass, because I was not going to be able to continue doing things at the level that I wanted to be able to do. And of course, I'm at this pivotal point, this critical turning point. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I was always a backup singer. I know I can sing. So, so why not? Let's just switch over to singer instead of bass.
Yeah.
And because of that outlook that I took on revolutionizing what I was doing on bass, the approach towards the audience and all of that stuff, made it for an easier transition to go over to lead vocals. But, and this is a big but, when you're standing in front of an audience and now you don't have a bass, that bass is kind of a comfort zone for you. Now you feel like you're naked. You really do. But it really has a feeling like you're naked. And so that was the thing that I really had to get used to, was what am I going to do now that I'm not holding a bass all the time?
And another thing I got to tell Gar, because I've seen you perform in concert, at least 3 times now, and each time you get better and better. But I mean, anybody that would see you performing would think that you've been a front man your whole life. And from what I know of your story that you shared with us is, like you just kind of explained, is you weren't always the front man. You really had to kind of do it for about the last 10 years or 12 years, however long you've been doing it. But by this point in your life now, in 2024, I mean, you've got a command of the stage, even though you're not up there with the bass guitar anymore. All the times I've seen you, like, I've noticed you've almost become one with the mic, where not only are you singing in it, but like, I mean, you know, you do not just stand in one spot. You're communicating with the audience, not just vocally, but in between the songs. You talk to the audience. I mean, you are in command of that stage.
Well, you know, I'm never done.
Yeah,
and you know, it's like whenever, you know, thank you for the pat on the back.
Yeah.
You know, I really, I very, very humbly appreciate that. Yeah. You know, but I am never satisfied. I am never done.
And I think,
so I have more things to offer, because I am currently in the position of rethinking even what I'm doing on stage as to what I can do to even make that better.
Yeah.
So right now I am working on all of that as we speak, behind the curtain, behind the scenes, as to what I can bring to the table, as far as taking my vocal prowess to the
next level,
the highest level that it can be taken.
Yeah.
And right now I am, I'm doing things with my voice that I have never done before.
Yeah.
In my entire life at this age.
Yeah.
Because I am in the elder stages of my life, and it's mind-boggling to be able to make these kind of breakthroughs at this kind of age, because it's kind of unheard of. People at my age are winding down. They're they're easing into retirement, and here I am establishing new things that I can do with my voice. But it doesn't just stop with the voice. It also continues into with what I'm doing. On stage, I'm exercising more to be able to increase my ability to be more active on the stage. I'm working on adding more things that Axl does.
Yeah.
More things.
That's the thing that people got to realize.
So there's always going to be a reason to come to the show in the future, because I'm never done.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
and to me, part of the thing that's exciting about getting up every day and putting on your shoes, and I put my pants on just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what makes it special for me is I still have things that I'm trying to accomplish. I still have barriers I'm trying to break. And and it's really exciting to do these things at my age, because it's think about it. To break that barrier is a massive achievement on its own.
Yeah.
But then now, to throw the fact that this was a achievement that was achieved by a person at this stage in life, is really, really, it's an honor.
Yeah, and
it's something that not many people have the capability of doing.
Yeah.
And I don't take that capability lightly. I embrace it. I love it. It gives me the reason to put those shoes and pants on every day.
Yeah, Gar, I can also tell people, each time I see your show, it's a little different, but that's a good thing, because like even the Kiss band that you've done shows with, Room Service, I've seen them a couple times, and they had a part of their show where they would throw Hershey Kisses out into the audience, and I was telling a guy the last time when I went to your guys' show, and about the Kiss tribute, and I said, oh, they're gonna throw. This is what they do, and they changed it up. That's what I think, especially about you, Gar. Like, you're not a natural singer, but you become one because you work so hard at it. And I can tell people, Gar, just like he just told us, he's not satisfied. He's always looking to perfect what he does. So if you ever get a chance to go out and see Appetite 4, the number 4 Destruction, go and see them. They are the premier Guns N' Roses tribute band from the LA area. Gar, I had fun doing this episode, as we always do. I want to wish you and your family and everybody listening to this, Gar, a happy Thanksgiving. This may go up on our regular schedule next Saturday. I'm going to see if I can push it up to come out Thursday on Thanksgiving. I will let everybody know and post it on our Facebook page, Gar. But before we leave, I want to let you and everybody know, as you and I have discussed, our next episode is going to be a fun kind of Halloween-themed one. The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, starring the legendary Don Knotts.
Looking forward to it. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you gain a lot of pounds.
Not too much, right? Yeah.
I hope everybody else out there listening gains some weight. Throw caution to the wind, and if it tastes great, have an extra helping.
And try to count your blessings and be thankful for what you do have.
Yes. And I'm very thankful to be doing this show with you. And I'm thankful for everyone that listens to this show.
As are we both.
Thank you.
Take care, Gar. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.